Okay, so for the knees, you're not gonna need any equipment, so I'm gonna put this away. And for the knees, I like to sit down on the ground. So I'm gonna try to get in a position where you can see me. And I'm gonna face forward for a time period. I'll turn to the side so you can see. With the knee, you really don't need to see much from the side, but just in case. Okay, big things to, in the way of terminology, so you can understand what I'm about to explain and demonstrate. The actions at the knee, again, if I was standing up, extension, excuse me. So the knee's a little backwards. I'll say this, let's start. Universal anatomical position, just like everything else, the knee is the one that's actually reversed. So we talked about flexion of the shoulder, bringing the hand forward towards the front is flexion, knee towards the front at the hip is flexion of the hip. With the knee, the foot going backward is actually flexion. Foot coming forward is extension. So like the elbow, the universal anatomical position, your elbows start in extension, your knees start not fully extended unless you're squeezing your quads, but as close to extension as possible. So to move at the knee right now, I would go from extension to flexion. Okay, so I just wanted to point that out before I got into this. And so knowing those two, the other two actions of the knee or motions of the knee, movements of the knee that you need to be aware of and you need to make sure that your knee is able to do over time are rotational. And that is looking at a line, if I imagine an imaginary line down the middle of my tibia or my shin bone, as people commonly refer to, if I had a line here and that line moved in, just like the hip with the thigh, if that line moved in, that means it's going internal. If that line moves outside of my body, that means it's moving external. So this is internal rotation. This is external rotation. Say it again. Internal rotation, external rotation. Internal rotation, external rotation. So my knee right now is flexed. My knee here is extended. Flexion, extension. Internal in rotation, external rotation. Cool. So for the knee car, what we're going to do is it's very similar to the elbow car, where the action will involve a maximum flexion, then a rotation, and then a movement the opposite way, then a rotation at the end range at that extended or flexed position back into the original position. Okay. To do a knee car the proper way, or the best way, I'll say, the best way I know how, is to wrap the same side arm under the knee just at the base of your femur or your thigh bone. I'm going to flex the opposite knee slightly, grab the opposite thigh. Then I'm going to sandwich my thigh, the end of my thigh right above my knee, so that my knee can rotate, but nothing else moves, okay? The other thing to concentrate on when you do a knee car is where your ankle is at. Because if you don't have knee rotation, you could just be looking at your foot, and your foot is moving, and then you got ankle rotation or ankle flexion, and you're not really getting a whole lot of action at the knee. That's why it's critical for you to look at the tibia only as you do knee rotations, okay? So I'm gonna wrap the arm, latch the other thigh, sandwich the top of the thigh or the top of the knee, and then I'm gonna look from this position. I'm just trying to work through internal rotation, external rotation, internal rotation, external rotation, internal rotation, external rotation, and squeezing at the end as far as I can rotate for both. So here we go. External rotation for me, what I'm looking for and trying to feel and consciously feeling with recognizing in my brain is what muscles and what tendons are getting tight for this action to happen. If you put your hands under your knee and externally rotate, you can feel one of your hamstring muscles that actually are involved, one or more, involved with pulling your knee into rotation. Same thing for internal rotation. As you internally rotate, you can feel, again, that line moves inside, can feel the tension in the tendons of the muscles involved with that rotation. That's what you want to get used to feeling and have your brain identify with, hey, this is normal, pain-free rotation of my knee. So I'm gonna latch the thigh, sandwich here, external rotation, internal rotation, internal rotation. Okay, now we're gonna add the flexion and extension. in, cut off. Now we're gonna add the flexion and extension in here. So internally rotate, I'm gonna extend with my arm under my knee here. And what this is gonna do is allow me to take my hip out of the equation, maximally flex in a passive way. And I'm externally rotating and extending. And I'm gonna internally rotate. Again, I'm watching the line of my shin bone, making sure I'm getting that internal rotation and not just my ankle. Internal rotation, and I'm gonna flex. Then I'm gonna reverse that, stay internally rotated, squeezing that internal rotation, and extend. And I'm gonna externally rotate from that extended position and flex. And we're gonna do the opposite. So I'm gonna internally rotate, externally rotate, flex, extend from that externally rotated position, internally rotate, and flex. Okay, pretty easy. So that's the knee.